Hi guys, Big Rig 150 here. Just getting over being sick, so if this sounds a little weird, I apologize. Today's actually been the first day I've actually felt good enough to do a video, so I'm going to take the opportunity to do a video today. And this is actually a funny thing. Anybody that knows me knows I cannot drive a manual transmission to save my life. And I've tried. I can do it around the dealership, no problem. I get on the road and I freeze. I get a mental block when there's 3 pedals. But the question is, what's happened to the manual transmission? CarMax did a study that actually showed the decline of the manual transmission. Back in 1995, roughly 27-28% of all sales were with a manual transmission. Now, that same number now is under 5%, almost 4%. They say 3.7. I'm going to give them a little bit, but you're looking at roughly 4%. Now, why am I using CarMax as an example? Reason I'm using CarMax as an example is because they are one of the world's largest used car dealerships. Personally, don't like them, but I'm not going to let my personal bias in on this because I actually found this very interesting. So I mean the manual transmission is effectively dead. Because now with the automatic transmissions, you're able to make more horsepower, more torque, and shift gears faster than you could with the manual transmission. And you've seen a steady decline in the amount of cars that were manual transmissioned back from 1995, which is 23 years ago. Go from 25 to 28% down to 4%. That's a 20% drop in used car sales. That's a lot. So, what does that mean for the automotive industry? Not much. It's taken away that feel of the thrill of shifting through gears, no problem. I'll give you a little story. Back in the early 80s, my father had a 1980 Toyota GT. I'm sorry, a 1980 Toyota Celica GT 5-speed. And he loved that car. He used to zip around all the time. Now, I'd be in the passenger seat and always wanted to shift the gears. I always thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So, as I got older, around the parking lot, he would tell me how to shift. I actually learned how to shift with the left hand, which is a lot abnormal unless you're over in England or over in Europe where they have all left-handed gears. So I learned how to shift gears left-handed. 16 years old, getting ready to get I have my permit, and I'm learning how to drive. Well, at the time, the family had I want to say it was a 1974 Datsun pickup truck that was green, that we lovingly called it Grasshopper. Now, my dad tried to teach me that third pedal. I had issues with the third pedal. So, first time I did it, I almost went through the house. I stopped myself. I didn't realize how I could jump. So I said, I'm done. My first time out on the road, I said, I'm done. So next day, my dad takes me out again. And we go down the street, and I'm doing good on the street. And he says, turn here, do this. Well, I'm on a hill. Now, not a huge hill, but a nice little incline. And I never felt the rhythm right. I always had a hard time feeling when to shift, when to release the clutch, and I never found that sweet spot. So we're back. We're on the hill, and there's a car behind me, and I'm getting nervous. I just drop it and go, and my dad's laughing because he's like, "You got to learn this." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't got to learn this. There's enough automatics out there." Now this is roughly 1992, 1991. At the time, it was a premium for a automatic. Fast forward 20 years, it's not a premium. It's a premium on the Mustang, and I'm sure a few other vehicles out there. But it comes as a surprise to me that the manual transmission is pretty much dead and gone. Now, with that being said, you still have a couple cars that have manual transmissions. You still have the Mustang, which is in both manual and automatic. You have the Focus ST, which has is only a manual, and you have the Focus RS, which I believe they're done producing it for now, but that was a manual. Now, the previous video I did talked about the 2020 Bronco and how that's going to have a manual shift. It'd be interesting to see, but you never know. A lot of people like the Broncos with those manual shifts back in the day, so I'm sure they're going to hit on the nostalgia. Now, when I got into the car business about 8 years ago, you still had your base model cars had the option for a manual transmission. Now, like I said, I've only been in the business 8 years, so in 8 years, I've seen the industry make a couple of wild changes. Now, part of the reason I think that you've lost the manuals is because these cars today can produce more horsepower, more torque at the optimal times so that you're burning fuel more efficient. So that's part of the EPA regulations to get the fleet of cars up to 54 miles to the gallon. So that's part of what's going on. Now, that can all change, but I don't see that changing yet. And people, millennials specifically, really do not know how to drive manual transmissions. They know how to drive automatics. They weren't given the ability to drive a manual. They were just told, here's a car, drive, get to and from work, do what you gotta do. They weren't taught. Guys at work always bust my chops because I can't drive a manual. Like I said, I can do it around the parking lot, but as soon as I get on the street, I freeze. It doesn't work. But that's part of it. Plus, right now I've put on some weight. I got two knees that are totally shot. Even just driving around a lot, my left knee just throbs so bad it's not worth it. I thank God I have a great group of guys at work who actually help me out to get the car down to get gas, to get detailed. Detail actually bring the car over, so I don't have to do it. Now, on a new car side, how many manuals do I sell a year? Well, if I sell 120 to 150 cars a year. Yeah, probably 5, maybe. So the percentage is small. But then again, so are the number of cars with manual transmissions. I think you were seeing the death of a mode of transportation, the feel of a transmission. I just see that as going away. Now, there are some areas in this country where there are enthusiasts, like in El Paso, Texas. 6% of the used cars that are bought are manuals. So there's pockets out there that still want the manuals. It's small, but there's still people that are enthusiasts. Talking with a couple of people, and they're like, I like the manual, but you know what? I'm getting older. It's not worth it. But it's nice when we get one that as a trade, goes zipping around a lot. You know, it's funny when you sit around and you're talking at work, especially at dealership. We're always talking about our first car. What was so special about that car? What was the car that you loved? We've all had a million cars because you are a car guy in the car business. So there's always that one car that you really want. And everybody always talks about the Mustang, the Corvette, the Camaro, all your muscle cars that had the 4 on the floor, you know. Or talk about the old school F100s that had 3 on the tree. My generation, my father's generation, are becoming, called dinosaurs. We're becoming extinct. I don't think we'll ever see the comeback of the manual transmission, to be honest, unless the EPA lessens some of the regulations and people actually want to learn. I always find it fun to see people driving manuals because that's what Americana is. Americana is the 1964, 65 Mustang, the Bullitt Mustang. Those were no manual. Those were no automatics. They were manuals. Or the 1977 Pontiac Thunder Firebird. You know, the Smokey and the Bandit. That was flip-flopping between for stunts. But you had, those cars were manual. Our love affair of cars. The Fast and the Furious movies. That stuff is what we still hold. Now, the street racing, I think you will always have those kind of manual transmissions because it's just, you know, a great feel. For the everyday driver, I think we're gonna see it become almost extinct, with the exception of your sports cars, your Corvettes, your Mustangs, your Jeeps, for the off-road ability. That's where I could see the manual really being more helpful. And that's all for today, guys. This is Big Rig 150 signing off. Have a great day, and I hope to hear comments. Please like, share, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications, and please leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of the video. Tell me what you want to see in the next video. Alright guys, take care. Be well.